Hey everyone. Today, we're talking about a question that's been on many minds. Why is it so hard to return to the moon if we've already been there before? Buckle up, because the answer is more complex than you might think. Let's start with a little history. Back in the 1960s and 70s, the United States, through NASA's Apollo program, achieved the monumental feat of landing humans on the moon. Between 1969 and 1972, 12 astronauts walked on the lunar surface. But why haven't we been back since? First, we need to understand that the Apollo missions were a massive undertaking. The technology, resources, and political will required were unprecedented. The Apollo program was driven by the intense competition of the Cold War, with the US and the Soviet Union vying for space supremacy. President John F. Kennedy's famous 1961 speech set the goal: to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the decade was out. This challenge spurred immense investment and innovation. So, why haven't we gone back? Let's break it down. 1. Cost and funding. The Apollo program was incredibly expensive. It cost about $25 billion in the 1960s, equivalent to over $150 billion today. After the initial moon landings, the US government's interest and funding for lunar missions waned. The Cold War space race had been won, and priorities shifted. Returning to the moon requires substantial funding, which is hard to secure without strong political and public support. Space exploration competes with many other pressing needs, like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Without a clear, compelling reason to return, it's difficult to justify the enormous expense. 2. Lost knowledge and technology. Believe it or not, much of the specific knowledge and technology from the Apollo era has been lost or become obsolete. The Saturn V rocket, which took astronauts to the moon, was a marvel of engineering. But production of the Saturn V ended in the early 1970s, and the expertise to build it again has largely disappeared. The original blueprints are scattered, and many of the engineers and technicians who worked on the Apollo program have retired or passed away. Rebuilding this capability means starting almost from scratch, designing new rockets and systems with modern technology. 3. Technological challenges. While we've made incredible advances in technology since the 1960s, space travel remains extremely challenging. The moon is about 240,000 miles away, and getting there safely requires precise engineering and planning. Modern missions need to address new challenges, such as longer durations on the lunar surface, sustainability, and supporting larger crews. We need to develop new spacecraft, habitats, and life support systems capable of handling these tasks. This involves extensive testing and iteration to ensure safety and reliability. 4. International and commercial competition. Today's space race is not just between nations, but also includes private companies. NASA is no longer the only player. Companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are developing their own lunar missions. While this opens up exciting possibilities, it also adds complexity and competition. Coordinating efforts between NASA, international space agencies, and private companies can be challenging. Each has its own goals, timelines, and technologies. Harmonizing these efforts to create a cohesive and successful return to the moon takes time and negotiation. 5. Political and public will. The political and public will to return to the moon has been inconsistent. While there's general enthusiasm for space exploration, sustained commitment is required. Governments change, policies shift, and budget priorities evolve. For a successful return to the moon, we need long-term political support and public interest. This means clear goals, consistent funding, and effective communication about the benefits of lunar exploration. 6. Science and exploration goals. Our goals for returning to the moon have evolved. The Apollo missions were primarily about demonstrating human spaceflight capabilities and beating the Soviet Union. Today, the focus is on sustainability, scientific research, and using the moon as a stepping stone to Mars and beyond. We aim to establish a long-term human presence on the moon, conduct in-depth scientific studies, and utilize lunar resources. These objectives require careful planning and advanced technology, making the task more complex than just a few short visits. 7. The Artemis Program. NASA's Artemis program aims to return humans to the moon by the mid-2020s. Named after Apollo's twin sister, Artemis represents a new era of lunar exploration. The program plans to land the first woman and the next man on the moon, focusing on the lunar South Pole, where water ice has been detected. Artemis involves building the Space Launch System SLS, the Orion spacecraft, and the Lunar Gateway, a space station orbiting the Moon. This infrastructure will support sustainable lunar exploration and pave the way for missions to Mars. But developing and deploying this complex system takes time and collaboration. International collaboration. Unlike the Apollo era, modern lunar exploration is more collaborative. NASA is working with international partners like ESA, JAXA, and Roscosmos. This cooperation brings diverse expertise and resources, but also requires coordination and alignment of goals. International collaboration can enhance the mission's success, but also adds layers of complexity. Different countries have different regulations, standards, and objectives, which need to be harmonized for a successful mission. Returning to the Moon is a daunting task. Even though we've done it before, it requires immense funding, advanced technology, international collaboration, and sustained political and public support. However, the potential benefits are enormous. The Moon can serve as a base for further space exploration, a site for scientific discovery, and a source of valuable resources. With the Artemis program and increasing interest from both government and private sectors, we are on the brink of a new era of lunar exploration. So, while it's hard to return to the Moon, it's a challenge worth undertaking. The Moon is our gateway to the universe, and by overcoming these hurdles, we can unlock new frontiers in space exploration. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting content about space and technology. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars.